Vince McMahon is back in power, WWE is going up for sale, and the year so far in wrestling. The ref is giving you until the count of 5 because you're against the ropes. Hello, and welcome to Against the Ropes, your source for your wrestling news. I'm Thomas Emeric, and with me once again is my tag team partner and co-host, Taylor Berkowitz.
Thomas, with everything I ate over the holiday break, you can call me Big Papa Plump.
Well, the shoulders are down, and the ref has started the count, so let's get to the show. Before we get to our main story, some sad news to report. On January 17th, Jamin Pugh, better known as Jay Briscoe, was killed in a car accident in Laurel, Delaware. He was 38 years old. Briscoe tagged with his brother Mark to form the Briscoes and were arguably the greatest tag team in Ring of Honor history. Burke, what are your thoughts on the life and legacy of Jay Briscoe?
Well, it's, again, it's a little bit complicated here. Obviously, he has made some statements in the past, some homophobic tweets and remarks. These were 10 years ago that have kind of followed him. And unfortunately, it's one of the things that kept them off Turner Television, off TBS this past year. Separate the art from the artist type of guy. He was an unbelievable performer in the ring. I mean, him and his brother that was their gimmick. It was an amplified version of their self. They left it all on the line. They put on some of the greatest matches in Ring of Honor history. Mm-hmm. And this past year, arguably the 3 best matches of the year. I mean, certainly their match at Supercard of Honor was my match of the year from last year. That feud with FTR that didn't have any real TV time. What they did to get that over was just unbelievable. And you really wanted to see where they would go next. Would they get the opportunity to get to the next level? And it's, it's sad that we won't get to see that. It's sad for him. It's sad for his family. Unfortunately, his daughters are still in the hospital. So it's just a very sad thing because they were great performers. He was a great performer, and we won't get to see what happens next.
Yeah, I agree. So, unfortunately, I really didn't get a chance to follow the Briscoes as much. I kind of got into them when they were feuding with FTR, watching the trilogy of the FTR versus the Briscoe matches. That really got me into the Briscoes, and it just sucks that we're not going to be able to see another FTR versus the Briscoes anymore.
Yeah, seeing them at Final Battle in person was just a tremendous thing. So we're sad that this happened.
We want to send our deepest sympathies to the Briscoe family and all of the people touched by his loss. Now we will have a 10-bell salute in honor of Jay Briscoe. Thank you. Now, on to our main story. Vince McMahon is back as CEO of WWE. He replaced the board of directors and reclaimed his role as the true head of the table. Stephanie McMahon is now out, and the company is now supposedly up for sale. Burke, what is happening in Stamford, and what do you think is happening with the WWE?
Well, I'll say this. Vince McMahon certainly showed Donald Trump how you launch a successful coup on January 6th. What's happening, I don't think any of it's good. Clearly, Vince is consolidating power. He's getting rid of the people who tried to, who did force him out earlier in the year. He's doing this under the guise of he's the guy that can put the company up for sale, negotiate media rights. Put me on the team of I'm not convinced the company is really going to be sold. I think this is a ploy for him to get back into power. It might be if the deal is right, but it seems to me like the fact that Stephanie left the fact that they've now moved some people out of the PR department who were there for a long time, that this is going to be something where Vince is really trying to get back into control, and they can say, hey, no creative changes, blah, 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 but you're not going to see some of those things in the short term. My guess is over a while that's going to happen in the long term, and then we see what happens with the sale. But this is Vince's power play, and he's the man in charge, and there's no stopping him now.
I agree. I just hope that like nothing changes with creative. I hope Triple H just like stays in power and like doesn't affect like anything like going on like on screen and like what we see.
But do you see that happening realistically?
What, like Triple H?
That he's going to let Triple H just be in charge?
No, not of the company, but like I just like hope
of the creative.
Yeah.
You think he's going to allow that to happen?
Maybe for a little while longer, but
I mean, I hope you're right, because obviously the changes we've seen with Triple H have been a breath of fresh air. It's been nice. It's felt like there's a weight lifted off of WWE, and I think, you know, the sad part of all this is we should be talking about the Royal Rumble coming up next week, and I don't know that I'm that interested. I don't know that I care that much, because the Rumble that matters is taking place in a boardroom in Stamford, Connecticut. And I don't know that there's that I trust whatever decisions are made next week are going to stick long-term, plan subject to change. So I think the creative aspect scares me. Who it might get sold to scares me. This was a nice thing having Vince gone and being in a new era, and now it just feels like we've taken a step back.
I agree.
I mean, it's, I just think it sucks. I mean, that's my, unfortunately as a fan, I think it sucks, and we'll wait and see. Maybe you're right. Maybe you can be optimistic. We'll have to see how it plays out. Yeah.
There's your breaking news. When we come back, we'll look at potential buyers and what it would mean for the future of the WWE. Welcome back to Against the Ropes. The potential sale of WWE has led to speculation about who the most likely buyers would be: Comcast, Universal, Disney, the Saudi Arabia government. So let's fantasy book the sale of WWE. As a fan, who do you want to see buy the company and why?
As a fan, I would say that I would feel most comfortable with Comcast, Universal buying it. Again, this is NBC's parent network. They have the infrastructure in place. You could say what you will about the Peacock interface and some of the issues they have, but everything is there. It's all warehoused. It would be the most seamless transition, and my guess is that given the potential climate of a sale, they would probably be able to say to Vince McMahon, hey, we'll buy the company, but that's what they're going to do. They're going to ring the bell on Vince McMahon's career, and they are going to have the power to force him out of a creative situation. That would be my ideal. If I'm going for maybe a dark horse here, Netflix, you're not going to be on actual TV all the time, but they have the streaming infrastructure, and they have certainly signaled through everything they've done that they're willing to give creative license to the people who are running things. Again, not sure what that means for Vince, because they might be a little more lenient there, but I think you'd have a pretty good chance of a decent creative product and access to quality video, certainly, every week.
So, for me, I would have to go with Tony Khan and Shad Khan.
Ooh.
Because I would just love to see WWE and AEW just combine, if you get what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying, and this is why I don't want to see it. I've lived through this. Maybe I happen to be just a tad older than you are, and I've lived through this, and it doesn't end well. Monopolies don't end well. They don't work well for the wrestlers. They don't work well for the consumers. This is what we've been dealing with. I think part of what makes AEW special is that it's not Vince McMahon's company. It's its own thing. It's got to compete, and WWE has to compete against it. I would hate to think about what happens. I would hate to think about what happens when if you have an AEW owned WWE with Vince in charge, and Tony Khan, given what he's done with AEW and Ring of Honor, that hasn't gone so well so far. So I'd be hesitant. I certainly understand why you'd want to see that, but I'd be hesitant about that.
It would just be cool to see just Tony Khan and Chad Khan buy WWE, and then I don't know, you could just bring in a whole lot of new ideas, I guess.
It's a lot of power in one person, but again, WWE has made it work for the past 20 years since they bought out WCW, and certainly been good for business for them. If I can say the thing I don't want to see, and this, it felt like a death sentence when the rumors happened, it's the Saudi Arabian government, this, their public investment fund. I don't want to get too into the politics of why, but as a fan, I don't know that I could support a company that is owned and is putting money into that government and into that regime. Again, I don't think that they would be doing it for business purposes and the best intention of wrestling. I think this is a propaganda piece. If the Saudis buy it, I'm out on WWE and whatever that product is going forward.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see how things play out. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, some actual wrestling to talk about. Welcome back. We haven't kicked out yet, so let's talk about the year in wrestling so far. John Cena returned to SmackDown, tagging with Kevin Owens against Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn. Charlotte Flair returned to win the SmackDown Women's Championship from Ronda Rousey, Who Was Uncle Howdy, and AEW kicked off the year with a brand new look to Dynamite. So, Burke, what has been your high point of the year so far?
For me, I am going overseas to New Japan Pro Wrestling and Wrestle Kingdom. It was a fantastic show, top to bottom. I'm going to give you, and I will give everybody at home, a recap here. First off, you had cheering allowed at the Tokyo Dome for the first time in a couple of years, and that just brought a great energy back to the product. You had the Legends matches to commemorate Antonio Inoki, and then you had the Great Muta, a.k.a. Keiji Muto's final New Japan match. So you got to see a bunch of legends. It's the first time that a women's match was on the card in New Japan Wrestling, and the first time at the Tokyo Dome since 1994. The match was great, 5 minutes. I wish they gave it was Kairi Sane versus Tam Nakano, and I wish I gave him a little more time. Really was an angle to set up the Mercedes Moné FKA Sasha Banks debut, which that was maybe a low spot of the show, but it's great to see her there. You have AEW and WWE wrestlers on the same show in a rival promotion. Kazuchika Okada defeats Jay White to recapture the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, which was a great match as the main event. But let's face it, the true main event and the match that stole the show, Kenny Omega defeated Will Ospreay in... It's hard to see this not being my match of the year. This is one of my favorite matches of all time. The emotion, I love Will Ospreay. Mm-hmm. I love Will Ospreay. And he brings me into those matches, and the stuff that he can do and the story he's telling with Kenny was just unbelievable. I don't know that I've ever been disappointed to see Kenny Omega win a title. This might have been the first time because I wanted Ospreay to win, and he drew me in that much. But at the end of the day, you've got Kenny Omega holding a New Japan title. That means he's going to be in New Japan, and it feels like New Japan is getting back to where it was a few years ago, and I'm excited for what's coming up this year.
Well, it looks like I'm going to have to tune in to New Japan to see what's going on and see if I like it.
I'll give you my login if, don't tell anybody.
So for my high spot of the year, I'm going to have to go with the return of Adam Cole, baby, on AEW Dynamite at the Keo Forum. I thought that was a really great moment on Dynamite, and I think it was able to basically like bring back an Adam Cole that we haven't seen in a long time, and like I think his return definitely like shocked the system.
It was definitely undisputed the high moment of that show, I would say. And yeah, great babyface promo. Happy to see him back. I'd like to see them, actually lean into him being a babyface. Hopefully they'll keep that going. But can I give you my low spot so far this year?
Yeah, go for it.
So my low spot is this MJF Bryan Danielson feud. It's really just, we've done this before. We've done the trials of MJF. You have to get through this many people. They have to do something else other than repeat that line. This is now the third time. And there's nobody that, listen, it's great to see a match against Bandito. It's great to see a match against Takeshita. They're great matches. Okay, Brian Cage next week. Yeah, I'll live through that. I don't believe any of them can win. Even if they do, what does that mean? There needs to be some other dimension to this story, because even if he gets through, I don't want to see an Iron Man match with MJF. I don't want Bryan Danielson winning the belt and taking it off MJF. There has to be something else that brings me in, and I just, love both those guys. I just don't like the story they're telling.
Yeah, I think like that storyline, like I feel like we've seen it like 3 times already. Like, so it's kind of like getting old. Like, I don't want to see it like another time. Like, if like I just don't want to see it like another time. But for me, like my low spot, I'm gonna have to go with the tag team match between Saraya and Tony Storm against Britt Baker and
was that
Jamie Hayter.
Yes.
So that's gonna be my low spot, because I feel like they were building it up to be like a big match, and like they were building up Saraya to have like a mystery partner, and then that mystery partner turns out to be Tony Storm. So I think that like that match so far, like it was like kind of a letdown.
And I mean, the angle last night with Saraya and Tony Storm turning on Willow, and we still don't know what Sheeta's role in this is. It's kind of a muddled mess, and again, the fact that we struggle to remember it kind of tells you how forgettable this actually was. So I agree with you there.
Yeah, well, that's all the time we have for this episode. But before we go, we are going to give our wildest and most unlikely wrestling predictions and what we'll call wrong answer only.
You want me to go first on this one?
Go for it.
All right. So my wildest prediction, I'm going to think ahead to January 4th next year. My prediction is that AEW champion Kenny Omega will main event Wrestle Kingdom and lose the IWGP championship, which he would have won from Okada, to Will Ospreay in the first all Gaijin main event of a Wrestle Kingdom. That's where I'm going. Double belt champion Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay.
So for me, I'm going to have to go with Jay White coming in at the Royal Rumble, possibly.
They say he's a free agent, so it's within the realm of possibility. We're going to see if he's a Vince guy at this point.
Well, that's going to wrap things up for our second episode. We'll see you next week on Against the Ropes for a special Royal Rumble preview show. But until then, we wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors.